Another upsetting loss from the Trump Department of Justice. They continue to drop the ball. This was Pam Bondi responding to a question, in fact, over James Comey and Letitia James indictments being dropped by a judge over a procedural error.
If I could just get your reaction to the James Comey, Letitia James cases being dropped today. Back in Washington, James Comey put out a video. He said this matters most because a message has to be sent. The President of the United States could not use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. Your reaction to the cases being dropped into that specific message?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
What is your reaction to his statement?
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were a betrayal of public trust.
The American public in general, especially conservative voters, are thankfully beginning to develop Pam Bondi fatigue. I've seen it more and more finally, where it's being called for her to resign or for Trump to just flat out replace her. And in this instance specifically, what is so wrong about all of this is that first and foremost, James Comey, his crimes as the former FBI director are prevalent and obvious. The corruption has been pretty much all but proven after Kash Patel took control of the FBI and released a load of information about all of this. Yet, somehow, the statute of limitations almost entirely ran out on indicting James Comey. The story behind this is of gross incompetence at best or insidious complicity at worst, which is what I'm starting to believe is the case in this Department of Justice. Because it took somebody desperately reaching out to President Trump on Truth Social to remind him that James Comey's statute of limitations was running out in just, I think it was 10 days, and nothing had been done. This outraged Trump. He wound up putting out tweets on his Truth Social, literally shouting out Pam Bondi and saying, "Pam, nothing is being done. Now I'm being told that James Comey's statute of limitations runs out in 10 days. No charges have been filed. No indictments have been made. What is going on?" A week later, with 4 days to spare, they indicted James Comey, finally. But what did they get him on? Was it all of the rampant corruption that we witnessed while he was serving as the director of the FBI? No, they get him on lying to Congress. A very minor charge that was never going to stick that much anyway. It was a first-time offense for him anyway as well, and it would have resulted in what I joked around to be 25 hours of community service. And they can't even get that to stick because Pam Bondi goes and makes the most simple mistake an attorney general could have ever made. She appointed, incorrectly, Lindsey Halligan to the indictment process without it being confirmed. I believe by the Senate is how that works. And so this, out of all of the U.S. attorneys that she could have appointed that would have just naturally worked, it would have been okay, no procedural errors, she picks the one that was going to be a procedural issue in the courts, allowing the federal judge to take a look at both Letitia James and James Comey at once, mind you, and go, why is Lindsey Halligan here? She wasn't properly appointed. Procedural issue. These indictments are now dismissed. The judge, people want to blame the judge. They want Trump to find a way to impeach this judge. And maybe this judge is corrupt, probably so. But in this instance, according to the law, it's not really the judge's fault. It's Pam Bondi's fault. She made the most simple rookie mistake you could have ever made. A gross showing of negligence and complete incompetence. I've been calling for her to resign since March. I gave her 1 month before I knew right away that she sucked. And back then, oh my God, people were like, give her time, give her a chance. And I made the compromise. I said, if no arrests of high profile people have been made by August, then I am completely withdrawing all support for Pam Bondi publicly on this channel. And guess what? August went by with not a single arrest. James Comey wasn't even arrested. He got to walk in quietly in a back door to plea in this indictment and then walk out quietly and go back to his home in peace. When Republicans were in this similar circumstances under the Biden regime, they were perp walked publicly in handcuffs. The Democrats wanted it to be a spectacle. They knew it would gather news and nationwide attention. Democrats play the game so much better than Republicans. It pisses me off. And I got news for you as a millennial, a young millennial. The young generations are not going to play the game the same way these old-time soft boomers in the Republican Party play it. So you better enjoy that now. You better enjoy this softball Republican Party now, because the young generations do not play the game like they do, and we hate watching them play this softball pansy. General Mike Flynn, somebody I would consider the ultimate patriot, who went to prison during the Biden regime for President Donald Trump, never betrayed Trump, has now also called for Pam Bondi to resign or be fired technically. He says in this tweet here, "I'm certain others will have their opinions, but mine is not an opinion. It is based on hard evidence. At real Donald Trump should hire Sidney Powell 1 as the Attorney General immediately. I'm sorry, Pam Bondi, but this was completely avoidable. As for James Comey, don't think it's over. And you know it. You committed crimes against our country." And that's all well and dandy, and I completely support that messaging. However, there is one problem with all of that. I believe James Comey will never see a single second of prison time. Just like I made an entire video about how and why James Comey wouldn't see prison. That prophecy is certainly coming true. I'm literally right about everything, which is why you should subscribe right now to American Advocates. Give this video a like and comment down below to help support it in the algorithm, because I'm just right about everything. And the longer you view me, the more you'll learn that that's true. And when it comes to James Comey now, let me tell you what's very likely to happen. Could be wrong, we'll see. But they got him with just 4 days to spare on the statute of limitations originally. Now, the indictment's been dismissed. End of story, in my opinion. Now, James Comey can hire attorneys who will very likely argue, I'm not a legal professional, by the way, but I could see this being a very reasonable legal argument. And that is, of course, well, the statute of limitations is up now. You want to try to re-indict him? Pam Bondi's insistent they're going to appeal this, but where's that going to go? And then what? Let's say the appeal works. Let's say I'm wrong. The appeal works. Comey's re-indicted. This time, a proper prosecutor is assigned that won't create a procedural error. What then? He's being brought up on charges of lying to Congress. That means nothing. Nobody cares about that charge. It's not going to stick. And you know, this is honestly the problem with Pam Bondi and all of this. We can look at this whole James Comey situation and Letitia James situation unfolding. We can also look at the seditious six. Those 6 Democrats calling for the U.S. military to disobey orders from the commander-in-chief, not specifying, by the way, which orders he's given them that's illegal, because there are none, but just making seditious, conspiratorial videos to encourage U.S. military members to create national security risks and disobey the commander-in-chief's orders, which would get these soldiers brought up on charges of seditious treason. They don't care, and they don't care because it's Pam Bondi in charge. The Democrats are running all over this woman. They are basically taunting her and poking at her, laughing while they do so and daring her to act, knowing that when she does, it'll be soft. She moves too slow on everything, and when she finally does put her foot down, it's done in such a soft and gentle way that it allows them to basically escape all consequences. She's the epitome of weakness, and I've told you this before on this channel. My theory on all of this is that she is dreadfully terrified of what will happen to her in the future. Should, say, J.D. Vance not win in 2028. Should, say, AOC becomes president in 2028, or Gavin Newsom, or any Democrat for that matter. Because she got to see firsthand how badly they persecuted President Donald Trump. I believe she represented Trump in Florida for the Mar-a-Lago case. And so I think that's in the back of her mind. I think she's a coward. And I think that right now in her position, she's thinking about the retaliation, a classic Republican mistake that pisses off so much of the youthful want-to-be Republican voters. We want action. We want justice. And I'm going to reveal in that poll later on how important that is, actually. Because I did poll my community on that. That was one of the options that could be picked, was justice, arresting corrupt Democrats. You'll see how that comes in. But there are just problems riddled all across this current Trump administration. I believe many of them need to possibly resign or be replaced. And General Mike Flynn has been an absolute savage on this topic on his X account recently. You can see right here, he states, "If you see the left doing and saying crazy anti-American things, it's because they feel untouchable, because they are. Nothing ever happens to them. Donald Trump, there will be no let up until we the people see real accountability for what you stated. Treason." He then tags Pam Bondi and Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. "Help our guy out." And here's another tweet from General Mike Flynn tagging Donald Trump again. "Please Listen to the voices across America who want you to do the right thing. Doing the right thing is always harder, we know that. But that is why we, the people, gave you the hot seat. We trust that you will do the right thing to save America from falling into the dustbin like many previous empires throughout history. Yes, there are enemies inside the wire and many outside who work with those inside. Again, recognize them and deal with them. We're with you, and we want you, to the best of your ability, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. We, the people, need you to succeed. God bless America. And the thing is, this messaging seems to be getting across to the Trump administration. There is now rumored stories being reported that Trump is considering major shakeups within his administration for the new year, entering 2026 with the possibility of a new Attorney General replacing Pam Bondi, a new Chief of Staff replacing Susie Wiles. I've also seen Kristi Noem's name actually on that chopping block, along with others. I have to do a little bit more research into why Kristi Noem's name would be on there, and Susie Wiles. But I can tell you what I've seen when it comes to Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. She is not popular with many Republican voters, at least not on social media. I don't know too much about this woman. I've heard that she was not very loyal to Trump after the 2020 J6 incident, which leaves a bad taste in many people's mouths. But I've also heard a lot of other things where she's deliberately watering down Trump and his actions and administration. She's a hindrance. She seems to be against the America First movement. Can't confirm any of that right now, but it does warrant more research, and I will be doing that. I'll probably make a video on her actually in the future. We'll see what's going on, but it's an important role, the Chief of Staff. It pretty much controls everything within the Trump administration and would explain a lot when it comes to the ineffectiveness and poor messaging that we've seen in the latter half of this year. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on all of this, though. Should Trump fire a lot of his administration officials and select new ones? This has been the Achilles heel of President Donald Trump now in both terms, it seems. Trump seems to have this great messaging, and he seems like he is gung-ho on his campaign trail. And call me naive all you want, but I do believe that that is genuinely who Trump is, because for 40 years we've seen Trump say the same stuff about America. I do believe he loves this country, and I do believe he loves his fellow Americans. But for whatever reason, the moment he gets into office, call it a deep state, I guess, call it whatever you want. There seems to be people that find their way around him and get in his ear and constantly sidetrack him from that America First messaging and agenda. That has to change. A lot is riding on the success of President Donald Trump in this term. If he's not successful, the fourth turning that we are witnessing occur will be coming to an end in 2028 one way or another. Either it ends with J.D. Vance being our president or some sort of conservative equivalent, or it ends with the entire system being broken down and with, very likely, in my opinion, a Democrat socialist gaining power. I do believe that those are the two most likely outcomes, and it all hinders on the success of President Donald Trump. If you enjoyed that clip, be sure to check out my YouTube channel where I have the full video where this clip was taken from published. And if you're America First like I am and you're an American advocate, be sure to subscribe and like the post. Thanks so much for watching.